Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Merry Christmas to all of you. And while this is the proverbial most wonderful time of the year, I understand that there are probably some people out there for whom this is a time of sorrow and frustration. So whether you're looking for peace or joy this holiday season, I sincerely hope you find it. A couple of weeks ago, I touched on what could happen if a player was naughty and got a warning. Now, I want to do the flip side of that and address a question that a lot of nice players have asked me over my judging career. Can't I just decline the penalty? One of the foundational principles of Magic's policy documents is that a player who commits an error should get the lowest percent chance of benefiting from that error as possible. Now, that sounds like a pretty good ideal to go for, but unfortunately, there's an unintended consequence, which is that a lot of relatively easy, minor, or innocuous mistakes have a really punishing or outsized fix. So today I'm going to be looking at some things players can do to help correct that imbalance. One of the best known examples, I think, would be in our missed trigger policy. In fact, I'm really impressed by how well our triggered ability policy does this. So if you don't know, at a competitive rel event, if you miss a triggered ability, then generally what's going to happen is your opponent is going to get a choice of whether to put that triggered ability on the stack now or just have it stay missed. So of course, you have an obvious option if you want to be nice here. You could always just let them have that triggered ability. In fact, the rules go a little bit farther, and for some types of triggered abilities, there isn't even an option of whether you should have the triggered ability go on the stack or get missed. The triggered ability always will go on the stack. The only choice the opponent has would be whether that triggered ability goes on the stack now or sometime in the future. I remember one particular story at a legacy event that I was playing in where I missed a Dark Confidant trigger. My opponent, who was playing Sneak and Show, graciously let me have that triggered ability. My life total was less than 15, so losing 0 to 5 life off that triggered ability would have almost no chance of improving that player's chances to win. On the other hand, the possibility that I could draw a Spell Pierce or a Force of Will off of that certainly would have improved my chances. This show of sportsmanship is a lot more common than you might think. Unlike what you might see in the movies, all tournament Magic players are not just vicious cutthroats. And so, a lot of them have a real desire to see the results of their matches be decided by games of Magic rather than what a judge says. I'm really glad that our triggered ability policy helps us achieve this ideal. Another time when this sort of thing could come up would be with hidden card errors. So let's say that a player plays a Stoneforge Mystic and forgets to reveal the card that they tutored for. Now, that would be an example of a hidden card error. Ordinarily, the policy documents say that you would reveal that player's hand and the opponent would get to choose one card out of it. That card is going to be considered the card that they tutored for. If it's a card they legally could have got, well then we're done. On the other hand, if it is not a card that they legally could have got, then it's going to get shuffled back into their library, and they get to repeat the search and find a legal target. Obviously, this sort of thing can really be groundbreaking and can affect the game a whole lot. If you really do believe your opponent when they say that the Batter Skull in their hand is the one that they got, rather than some other card that they might be relying on to win, well, of course, you can always just take their word for it. One thing that you can't do, though, is overturn a warning. So if a judge gives out a warning as a penalty, you might remember from my video that I did on those that one of the purposes of that is so that judges can track to see how often players are committing infractions. Obviously, if we see an infraction get committed multiple times over the course of an event by the same player, then that's something we would want to take a closer look at. Since this is one of the primary purposes of warnings, judges don't really have discretion as to whether a warning gets issued or not. In fact, this used to be something that judges could do, and there are a lot of stories of notorious cheaters in Magic's history who went undetected for a lot longer than they otherwise would have, because they had the strategy of always asking the judge to downgrade warnings into cautions. Cautions are not tracked, and so that means that the cheater had absolutely no record of committing those types of infractions. This sort of thing is the reason why this isn't really practiced anymore, and judges don't really have discretion as to whether you get a warning or not. If you committed an infraction that has a warning as the penalty, then you're probably going to be getting one, and that's the reason why. Turning our attention towards regular rel, we've got a really easy solution to this kind of question. A judge can do whatever fix they feel is appropriate, and so if you hear a question that sounds something like, well, couldn't we just, from a player whose opponent committed a mistake, that's usually a great place to start. Truth be told, even at competitive rel, I've been known to do this sort of thing. If both players agree on a fix, even one that's not technically within what the rules and policy documents say, I'm generally pretty likely to grant it to them. Always make sure to check with your head judge if appropriate if you want to do something like this though. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.